Here's 11 trades that would completely change the NBA, starting with one that's been trending. Zach LaVine to Denver. The Denver Nuggets would trade Michael Porter Jr. and Zeke Naji to the Chicago Bulls for Zach LaVine in this deal. This potential trade could have major ripple effects for both teams. For Denver, acquiring LaVine would address some glaring needs. LaVine, averaging nearly 22 points, over 4 rebounds, and 4 assists per game, brings an efficient scoring touch that's rare in the league, with a true shooting percentage putting him in the company of Nikola Jokic, Steph Curry, and Sabonis. LaVine's ability to score from all areas of the court would give Denver's offense a whole new dimension. Pairing him with Jokic, one of the best passers in basketball history, could unlock an offensive juggernaut. In this scenario, Denver's new starting lineup could be Jamal Murray, Christian Brown, LaVine, Aaron Gordon, and Jokic. This lineup would feature a blend of playmaking, shooting, and athleticism that few teams could match. LaVine's off-ball scoring ability makes him a perfect complement to Jokic, who thrives when surrounded by players who can capitalize on his elite passing. LaVine would also help with Denver's three-point shooting woes. The Nuggets rank dead last in three-point attempt rate and near the bottom in drives per game. LaVine, who attempts over 10 threes per 100 possessions and is shooting nearly 43% this season, would provide much-needed perimeter scoring and rim pressure. However, Denver would lose Michael Porter Jr., a proven spot-up shooter and secondary scorer. Porter is averaging 18.5 points and 7 rebounds per game while shooting efficiently from beyond the arc. Over the last 6 seasons, despite injuries, he has evolved into a consistent offensive weapon. His ability to space the floor has been crucial for Denver, and his departure would create a hole in their offensive strategy. Still, the addition of LaVine's all-around scoring could outweigh the loss of Porter's specialized role. Zeke Naji's inclusion in the trade adds another layer to the discussion. Naji has struggled to find his footing in the league, and advanced metrics have not been kind to him. His contract, with 3 years remaining at around $23 million, isn't appealing. For Denver, parting with Naji could free up some flexibility, but it also means losing a player who, while unproven, still has potential upside in the right system. Now let's look at this trade from Chicago's perspective. The Bulls are in a tricky spot, and moving LaVine might be more about their long-term goals than immediate benefits. Trading LaVine would significantly weaken their current roster, but it could help their rebuilding efforts. The Bulls currently owe their top 10 protected 2025 first-round pick to San Antonio. With the team hovering around 10th in the lottery standings, they risk losing that pick. Trading LaVine could ensure they land in the bottom 10, keeping their pick and adding a cornerstone for the future. Michael Porter Jr. would be a centerpiece for the Bulls in this trade. At 26 years old, he fits better with Chicago's timeline than LaVine, who has likely peaked with the team. Porter's scoring and rebounding abilities would bring a needed boost to the Bulls' offense. He's shown that he can be a reliable option when healthy, and his age aligns with the Bulls' young core, including players like Kobe White. While Porter has struggled with injuries throughout his career, his talent is undeniable. His ability to stretch the floor and contribute as a secondary scorer could help the Bulls remain competitive, even as they rebuild. The Bulls have been resistant to full-scale tanking, but this trade could allow them to thread the needle, staying competitive while securing assets for the future. However, taking on Zeke Naji's contract would be a tough pill to swallow. His production hasn't justified his salary, and adding him could limit the Bulls' cap flexibility moving forward. Without draft compensation included in the trade, Chicago would have to bank on Porter's upside and the potential benefits of moving LaVine to justify the deal. Ultimately, this trade comes down to priorities for both teams. For Denver, it's about maximizing Jokic's prime and addressing their weaknesses in scoring and shooting. LaVine offers a solution to both and could elevate them to a new level offensively. For Chicago, it's about resetting and building toward the future. Porter represents a younger piece to complement their core, and moving LaVine could keep their draft pick in a critical rebuilding year. This trade isn't without risk for either team. Denver sacrifices a proven shooter and young asset in Porter, while Chicago takes on a bad contract and gives up an all-star caliber player. But for both sides, the potential rewards might outweigh the risks, making this an intriguing possibility. Moving on though, we got to talk about the most talked about person in trade rumors right now, Jimmy Butler. The trade would send Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors in exchange for Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton, Kyle Anderson, Brandon Podds, and 2 first-round picks. let's break this down for both teams and see how it could shape their futures. Starting with the Warriors, this trade would be all about making one more title push while Steph Curry is still playing at an elite level. Adding Butler to the mix would instantly give them a strong secondary playmaker and someone who can take a lot of the ball handling duties off Curry's shoulders. Right now, the Warriors struggle whenever Buddy Hield doesn't have a huge game, as they lack a consistent second scoring option. Butler solves that problem. He's averaging just under 20 points per game this season, but his impact goes way beyond the box score. Butler is a two-way force who thrives under pressure. His defensive intensity fits perfectly with Golden State's culture, and his ability to facilitate offense would allow Curry to operate more off-ball. Imagine a lineup of Curry, Hield, Butler, Draymond Green, and Looney, with Dennis Schroeder providing spark off the bench. That's a lineup with plenty of versatility, scoring, and defensive grit. Butler's presence would make the Warriors more balanced and help them avoid over-relying on Curry to generate offense every single night. The cost for Golden State is significant though. Andrew Wiggins has been a key contributor during their recent success, especially on the defensive end. He's averaging solid numbers and has proven he can step up in big moments, especially in playoff settings. Losing him would leave a gap in terms of athleticism and wing defense. Gary Payton is another tough piece to let go of. His ability to lock down perimeter players and bring energy off the bench has been invaluable. Brandon Podds is still developing, but the Warriors have high hopes for his potential as a future contributor. And giving up 2 first-round picks, that's a steep price, but it shows just how serious they are about winning another championship while Curry is still at his peak. By the way, if you guys enjoy these deep dives, I'll be posting every day during the season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks. Anyways, the trade. For the Heat, this trade would represent a major shift in their direction. By moving Butler, they're essentially handing over the keys of the franchise to Tyler Herro and Bam Adebayo. This isn't a bad thing. It's just a clear signal that they're committing to a younger core and looking toward the future. Herro has shown flashes of being a dynamic scorer, and Bam is already one of the most versatile big men in the league. Together, they could form the foundation of Miami's next era. In return, the Heat get several solid pieces. Wiggins might not bring the same level of leadership and clutch play as Butler, but he's a capable two-way player who can contribute immediately. His scoring, rebounding, and defensive versatility fit well alongside Herro and Bam, giving Miami a balanced starting lineup. Gary Payton brings championship experience and elite defensive skills, which align with the Heat's identity. He's the type of player who thrives in Miami's system. Adding Kyle Anderson adds even more versatility. Anderson's playmaking ability and basketball IQ are underrated, and he can provide valuable minutes as a connector on offense and a smart defender on the other end. Brandon Podds, though still young and unproven, gives Miami another piece to develop alongside their core. And let's not overlook those 2 first-round picks. For a team looking to rebuild around a younger group, those picks could be critical in adding more talent or leveraging them in future trades. This trade also allows Miami to fully embrace a new leadership structure. With Butler gone, there's no question that Herro and Bam become the faces of the franchise. It's a bold move, but it's one that could pay off if they're ready to take that next step. The Heat have shown time and again that they can find ways to compete, even when retooling their roster. Ultimately, this trade could give the Warriors a much-needed boost in their pursuit of another title while allowing the Heat to reshape their future around a younger core. It's a win-now move for Golden State and a forward-thinking move for Miami, each team leaning into its priorities. The stakes are high for both sides, but the potential upside is undeniable. After that one, though, I like this next trade. The trade would send Brandon Ingram to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, and 2 first-round picks. This move could reshape both teams in significant ways. For the Spurs, acquiring Ingram would be a bold step toward maximizing Victor Wembanyama's second season. Ingram is a proven scorer and a versatile offensive weapon who would complement Wembanyama perfectly. Over the past 3 seasons, Ingram has averaged over 22 points per game while shooting nearly 49% from the field and 37% from deep. His efficiency and ability to create his own shot would take a lot of pressure off Wemby, letting the young star focus on developing his game without being forced into a high-usage role too soon. The new look Spurs lineup could feature Chris Paul, Devin Vassell, Ingram, and Wembanyama. That's an impressive combination of veteran leadership, young talent, and scoring firepower. Chris Paul would handle playmaking duties, allowing Ingram and Wemby to thrive in their offensive roles. Ingram also brings underrated playmaking, which could keep the Spurs' offense flowing smoothly even when Paul is off the floor. This setup balances youth and experience, giving the Spurs a real chance to climb back into playoff contention. San Antonio's cap situation makes this trade even more enticing. They can afford to extend Ingram this summer with the maximum contract he's likely seeking. The Spurs haven't had a star scorer of Ingram's caliber in years, and his presence could speed up their rebuild significantly. For a team sitting near the bottom of the Western Conference, adding a player like Ingram would signal a shift from rebuilding to competing. On the other hand, the Pelicans would be pivoting toward a rebuild with this trade. Sending Ingram to San Antonio allows them to start fresh while ensuring they don't lose him in free agency for nothing. With the team sitting at the bottom of the Western Conference, their current roster isn't working. Moving Ingram would be the first step in reshaping their future, and the return package of Keldon Johnson, Zach Collins, and 2 first-round picks gives them the flexibility to rebuild or retool. Keldon Johnson is a strong building block for the Pelicans. At just 24 years old, he's already shown he can be a consistent scorer and a capable defender. Johnson is averaging solid numbers and brings the kind of energy and toughness that would resonate with the Pelicans fan base. His ability to play multiple positions and contribute on both ends of the floor makes him an ideal fit for a team looking to establish a new identity. Zach Collins adds depth and versatility to the Pelicans' front court. He's a skilled big man who can stretch the floor and provide rim protection, making him a valuable piece alongside their existing roster or in any future moves they might make. With Collins and Johnson, the Pelicans get 2 players who can contribute immediately while fitting the timeline of a younger core. The 2 first-round picks are also crucial. They give the Pelicans the assets needed to either draft young talent or package them in future trades. This flexibility is vital for a team that might consider additional moves, such as trading Zion Williamson, CJ McCollum, or DeJounte Murray. Whether they fully commit to a rebuild or try to stay competitive, these picks give them options. This trade doesn't just give the Pelicans a fresh start, it also prevents them from losing Ingram without any return. By moving him now, they gain valuable assets that can help shape their future. It's a pragmatic move for a franchise that needs to make significant changes to climb out of the Western Conference basement. For both teams, this trade could mark a turning point. The Spurs would immediately improve, giving Wembanyama the help he needs to succeed early in his career. Meanwhile, the Pelicans could begin building a younger, more sustainable core, with the potential for a quick rebuild if they make additional moves. It's a high-stakes trade, but one that could pay off for both sides in the long run. Let's talk about a fun one, though. Lauri to the Rockets. The trade would send Lauri to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Dillon Brooks, Reed Shepherd, and Jock Landale. This trade could be a game changer for both teams, with the Rockets aiming to contend and the Jazz focusing on their future. For the Rockets, adding Lauri to an already strong roster would elevate their offensive potential significantly. Lauri, averaging over 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists, is a versatile scorer who can stretch the floor and thrive in various offensive roles. Houston already boasts the best defensive team in the league, and this move would balance their roster by giving them a reliable primary scoring option. Their new lineup could look like this: Fred VanVleet, Jalen Green, Lauri, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun. That's a mix of defensive intensity, young talent, and offensive firepower. VanVleet's leadership and playmaking, combined with Lauri's scoring and spacing, would make them an even more dangerous team. Jalen Green's development as an explosive scorer, paired with Lauri's ability to get buckets efficiently, would put constant pressure on opposing defenses. Jabari Smith Jr. and Sengun add size and skill in the front court, making Houston's starting 5 one of the most well-rounded in the league. At 17-9, the Rockets are already exceeding expectations. This trade could push them into legitimate championship contention. Lauri's presence would not only diversify their scoring, but also make life easier for their young stars. He's the kind of player who doesn't need the ball in his hands to be effective, which allows the Rockets to continue developing Green and Smith without disrupting their roles. Plus, Lauri's ability to knock down threes and attack mismatches would make Houston's offense much more dynamic. The cost for Houston is significant though. Dillon Brooks has been a key piece of their league-best defense, bringing toughness and energy every night. His ability to disrupt opposing stars has been invaluable, and losing him would leave a noticeable gap on that end of the floor. However, the Rockets might be betting that their defensive system, combined with their other strong defenders, can absorb the loss of Brooks. Reed Sheppard is another intriguing part of the package. As the third pick in last year's draft, he has a lot of upside and could become a valuable contributor down the line. Parting with such a high potential prospect is never easy, but Houston seems to be prioritizing winning now over long-term development. Jock Landale, while a solid role player, hasn't been a focal point for the Rockets, so including him in the trade wouldn't significantly impact their rotation. For the Jazz, this trade is about resetting and building for the future. They're not in a position to compete in the loaded Western Conference. Moving Lauri now allows them to acquire assets and young talent without risking losing him for nothing in the future. It's a forward-thinking move that aligns with their current trajectory. Dillon Brooks would bring a level of grit and toughness to the Jazz that every team values. While he's not a primary scorer, his defensive mindset and ability to guard multiple positions would give Utah a boost on that end of the floor. Brooks' personality and leadership could also set the tone for a young Jazz team that's trying to establish its identity. Reed Sheppard is the centerpiece of this deal for Utah. As a highly touted young prospect, he has the potential to grow into a star. The Jazz are in a position to give him plenty of opportunities to develop, and his addition could be a foundational piece for their rebuild. With the right development, Sheppard could become a core player alongside Utah's other young talent. Jock Landale adds depth to Utah's front court and gives them a solid rotational piece who can contribute right away. While he's not a flashy player, Landale's hustle and ability to play his role effectively make him a nice addition to the roster. This trade also gives the Jazz flexibility moving forward. By acquiring Sheppard and moving Lauri, they can focus on their rebuild without the pressure of trying to compete immediately. The added cap space and roster flexibility could set them up for future trades or free agent signings that align with their long-term goals. Ultimately, this trade shows two teams in very different phases of their journeys. The Rockets would go all in on contending, adding a proven scorer in Lauri to an already solid roster. Meanwhile, the Jazz would position themselves for the future, gaining young talent and assets to help them rebuild. It's a trade that could make both teams better suited for their current paths. Following that one though, let's talk about OKC. The trade would send Isaiah Stewart to the Oklahoma City Thunder in exchange for Kenrich Williams, Jalen Williams, and a first-round pick. While this might not seem like a blockbuster move on the surface, it has significant implications for both teams. For the Thunder, bringing in Isaiah Stewart would give them a tough, physical presence in the front court. Stewart has established himself as a reliable enforcer-type player, known for his grit and hustle. Although his consistency has been an issue at times, he's never had the opportunity to play a meaningful role on a competitive team. That's where Oklahoma City could come into play. They're a young, rising squad with legitimate playoff aspirations, and Stewart could help solidify their rotation. Stewart's ability to rebound, defend, and bring physicality would complement the Thunder's current roster. He could either come off the bench as an energy boost or even start, especially while Chet Holmgren continues to ease into the lineup. Stewart is also in the second year of a 4-year, $60 million contract, so Oklahoma City would be investing in him as more than just a short-term piece. If the Thunder can get the best out of him, Stewart could become a key part of their rotation as they aim to make noise in the Western Conference. Oklahoma City's young core, led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Holmgren, thrives on versatility and skill. Adding Stewart would bring a different dynamic to the team, a bruising, hard-nosed presence who could handle the dirty work in the paint. While the Thunder are loaded with talent, having someone like Stewart could make them a tougher, more resilient team when it comes to grinding out wins in the postseason. On the flip side, the Detroit Pistons would benefit from this deal in a different way. With Jalen Duren emerging as their centerpiece in the front court, Isaiah Stewart has become somewhat expendable. Duren's strong play has made it clear that he's the future at the position, and the Pistons might look to prioritize him while gaining assets for the future. By trading Stewart, the Pistons would gain 2 expiring contracts in Kenrich Williams and Jalen Williams, as well as a valuable first-round pick. These expiring deals would give Detroit more financial flexibility moving forward, allowing them to create cap space or use those contracts in future trades. The pick also adds a valuable asset to their rebuilding efforts, giving them more options to either draft talent or package it for a significant move down the line. Kenrich Williams, known for his versatility and energy, would bring a veteran presence to Detroit's roster. While he might not be a long-term piece, his ability to play multiple positions and contribute in various ways could help the Pistons stay competitive in the short term. Jalen Williams, on the other hand, is a younger player who could develop into a solid role player with the right opportunity. While he's not a star in the making, he adds depth and potential to the Pistons' rotation. The bigger picture for Detroit is about creating a path to surround Cade Cunningham with the right pieces. Cunningham is the clear focal point of their rebuild, and moves like this give the Pistons more flexibility to shape the roster around him. With the way Drummond has been playing, Detroit can afford to part ways with Stewart while focusing on building a more complementary team around their young star. This trade wouldn't grab headlines like some blockbuster deals, but it's the kind of move that could quietly improve both teams. The Thunder would gain a much-needed enforcer who could elevate their toughness and depth, while the Pistons would gain financial flexibility and a valuable draft pick to continue their rebuild. It's not a massive trade, but it's an important one for two teams trying to take the next step in their respective trajectories. Next, though, I have a crazy one that will never happen, but I want to say it anyway. The trade would send Zion Williamson to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, Christian Wood, and a first-round pick. This trade would have huge implications for both teams, with the Lakers aiming to maximize their championship window and the Pelicans possibly moving toward a rebuild. For the Lakers, acquiring Zion would be a gamble worth taking. Zion, when healthy, is one of the most explosive and dynamic players in the league. This season, he's been averaging nearly 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. His ability to dominate inside, combined with his versatility, makes him a perfect addition to a team that's all about making the most of LeBron James's remaining years. At 40 years old, LeBron still looks phenomenal, but time isn't on his side, so the Lakers need to win now. The new Lakers lineup could feature Austin Reeves, Dalton Knecht, LeBron, Zion, and Anthony Davis. That's a lineup loaded with size, athleticism, and scoring. Zion's presence would relieve some of the pressure on LeBron to carry the offense, while his physicality and rebounding would add a new dimension to the team. Pairing Zion with Davis in the front court could be a nightmare for opposing teams, with both players being capable of dominating the paint and creating mismatches all over the floor. The risk, of course, is Zion's health. Injuries have been a consistent issue for him, and there's no guarantee he'll be able to stay on the court for an entire season. But the Lakers might be willing to roll the dice because of his immense talent and the potential to form one of the most physically imposing lineups in the league. Adding Zion to LeBron and Davis would give the Lakers an incredible shot at competing for a title. On the other side, the Pelicans would be making a move toward flexibility and long-term planning. By trading Zion, they'd be acknowledging the uncertainty surrounding his health and committing to a fresh start. This trade brings in multiple expiring contracts, giving the Pelicans financial freedom to reshape their roster. D'Angelo Russell, Rui Hachimura, and Christian Wood are all capable players who could either contribute immediately or be used as assets in future trades. Russell, a skilled scorer and playmaker, could step in as a leader for the Pelicans during this transitional phase. While he might not be a long-term solution, his ability to run an offense and create his own shot would help keep the team competitive in the short term. Hachimura brings size, athleticism, and versatility, making him a valuable piece for the Pelicans' front court. He's shown flashes of being a solid contributor, and in a new environment, he might have the opportunity to grow even more. Christian Wood adds another layer to the deal. He's a proven scorer and rebounder who could help the Pelicans maintain a strong inside presence. While his defensive limitations have been noted, his offensive skill set would give the team a boost, especially in a reduced role. Together, these players provide depth and immediate value while giving the Pelicans options moving forward. The first-round pick is another crucial piece of this trade. For a team potentially entering a rebuild, draft capital is essential. Whether the Pelicans use the pick to select a young player or package it in another deal, it adds flexibility and value to their future plans. If the Pelicans decide to move other pieces, like CJ McCollum or Brandon Ingram, they could accelerate a full rebuild centered around younger talent and more draft assets. Ultimately, this trade reflects where both teams are in their respective timelines. The Lakers are all about the present, doing whatever it takes to maximize LeBron's championship window. Zion represents a high-risk, high-reward move that could transform their roster and make them a serious contender. Meanwhile, the Pelicans are looking at the bigger picture, gaining financial flexibility and assets to position themselves for sustained success down the road. While the trade isn't without risks for both sides, it addresses each team's immediate and long-term needs. The Lakers would be banking on Zion's potential to elevate their team to championship contention, while the Pelicans would be betting on a fresh start with new pieces and the flexibility to build a better future. Let's get back to a more realistic trade though. Knicks Sixers. The trade would send Andre Drummond, Gershon Yabusele, and Ricky Council to the New York Knicks in exchange for precious Jericho Sims, a first-round pick, and 2 second-round picks. This trade addresses key needs for both teams and shakes things up in interesting ways. For the Knicks, the move is all about shoring up their front court depth. With Mitchell Robinson out until February, they've been exposed on the boards and in interior defense. Andre Drummond steps in as an immediate solution. While he's no longer the dominant all-star rebounder he once was, Drummond remains one of the league's most reliable big men when it comes to cleaning up the glass. Adding him gives the Knicks a dependable presence to plug into their rotation. And when Robinson gets healthy, Drummond shifts to a backup role, forming a solid 1-2 punch at center. Gershon Yabusele also adds value here. Known for his versatility and physicality, Yabusele brings some much-needed size and depth to the Knicks' front court. He might not be a household name, but his ability to play multiple positions and contribute defensively makes him a nice piece for a team that's been scrambling to fill gaps. Ricky Council provides a developmental piece, offering some upside for the future, though he's unlikely to make a big impact right away. The best part for the Knicks, they don't have to part ways with Mitchell Robinson in this deal. That's huge because it means they're addressing an immediate need without sacrificing a core piece of their future. Once Robinson is back, he slots right back in. For a team that's been desperate for rebounding and front court depth, this trade checks all the boxes. Now let's look at the Sixers. For Philadelphia, this trade is about maximizing the value of an asset they no longer need in Andre Drummond. Drummond isn't worth a first-round pick anymore, but in this deal, they're getting just that, plus 2 second-round picks. It's a strong return for a player who has mostly transitioned to a backup role in recent years. The centerpiece of the deal for the Sixers is Precious. At just 24 years old, Precious has shown flashes of being a versatile big man who can defend multiple positions and contribute on both ends of the floor. While he's not a game changer yet, his potential makes him an appealing piece for a Sixers team that's looking to remain competitive while also keeping an eye on the future. Precious's athleticism and defensive instincts could make him a valuable rotation player in Philadelphia. Jericho Sims is another intriguing piece. While he's more of a project, Sims has the size and physical tools to develop into a solid contributor. He gives the Sixers additional depth at center, which is always valuable in a league where big men can often swing games. Combined with Precious, Sims provides Philadelphia with a pair of young, athletic players who could grow into bigger roles over time. The picks are the cherry on top for the Sixers. The first-round pick gives them a valuable asset that could be used to draft a promising young player or package in a future trade. The 2 second-round picks provide even more flexibility, allowing Philadelphia to continue building out their roster with low-cost talent or use them as trade chips down the line. This trade aligns with Philadelphia's current strategy. They're able to move on from Drummond, who no longer fits their long-term plans, while bringing in young talent and draft assets. It's a smart play for a team that's trying to balance winning now with setting themselves up for the future. For both teams, this trade makes sense. The Knicks get the rebounding and front court depth they desperately need, allowing them to stay competitive while Mitchell Robinson is out. The Sixers, on the other hand, capitalize on Drummond's remaining value, bringing in younger players and valuable draft picks to bolster their future. It's not a blockbuster move, but it's a win-win for two teams addressing very different priorities. After that, though, check this out. The Memphis Grizzlies would trade Brandon Clark, John Concher, and a first-round pick to the Chicago Bulls in exchange for Nikola Vooch. This move could significantly impact both teams in intriguing ways. Starting with the Grizzlies, acquiring Vooch would provide them with a seasoned center who brings a versatile offensive skill set. Vooch has been delivering impressive numbers this season, averaging 21 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 assists per game, while shooting 59% from the field. His ability to stretch the floor with his shooting and facilitate from the post would add a new dimension to Memphis's offense. This would perfectly complement their dynamic backcourt led by Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. Vooch's presence could also alleviate some of the scoring burden on Morant, allowing for a more balanced defensive attack defensively. While Vooch may not be known as a rim protector, his experience and basketball IQ would contribute to the Grizzlies' interior defense. Pairing him with Jaren Jackson, Jr. could create a formidable frontcourt, with Jackson's shot-blocking prowess compensating for any defensive limitations Vooch might have. This combination could enhance Memphis's ability to guard against versatile big men in the league, particularly in a competitive Western Conference. Vooch also brings playoff experience to a young Grizzlies team that is looking to make a deep run. His ability to perform under pressure and his leadership could be invaluable for a roster that is still learning how to win in high-stakes situations. For Memphis, this trade isn't just about improving their regular season performance. It's about positioning themselves as serious contenders. On the flip side, the Bulls would receive Brandon Clark, John Konchar, and a valuable first-round pick. Clark, averaging 11 points and 5 rebounds per game this season, is a high-energy forward, known for his athleticism and efficiency around the rim. His per-game averages reflect his ability to contribute significantly on both ends of the floor. Clark's versatility would allow the Bulls to utilize him in various lineups. He could fit well alongside Zach LaVine and Kobe White, providing a youthful spark and defensive tenacity. John Konchar, while not a headline name, offers solid depth as a wing player. Standing at 6 feet 5 inches and weighing 210 pounds, Konchar has shown the ability to contribute when called upon. His career averages include approximately 4 points and 3 rebounds per game. His work ethic and adaptability make him a reliable role player who can fit into Chicago's rotation, providing shooting and defensive support off the bench. Konchar's value lies in his willingness to play his role and contribute in any way the team needs. The inclusion of a first-round pick is a strategic asset for the Bulls. It offers them flexibility, whether they choose to select a promising young talent to develop alongside their current core or use the pick as leverage in future trade negotiations to address other roster needs. For a team like Chicago that might be considering a retool or partial rebuild, having a first-round pick provides a valuable opportunity to add long-term assets to their roster. Financially, this trade could benefit both teams. Vooch is under a team-friendly contract, earning $20 million for the 2025 season. This is a reasonable deal for a player of his caliber, especially when you consider the impact he brings on offense. Meanwhile, Clark and Konchar are on more manageable deals, and the Bulls would gain some salary cap flexibility. This would allow them to explore additional moves in free agency or trades to further enhance their roster. For the Grizzlies, this trade is about winning now. They have an exciting young core and have already proven they can compete with the league's best. Adding Vooch would give them the offensive and defensive balance needed to take the next step. For the Bulls, this trade is about securing the future while remaining competitive. Clark provides youth and potential, Konchar adds depth, and the draft pick offers flexibility and hope for long-term success. This trade presents a win-win scenario. The Grizzlies would acquire a skilled center in Vooch, bolstering their offensive versatility and veteran presence as they aim to make a deeper playoff run. The Bulls, on the other hand, would gain a promising forward in Clark, a reliable role player in Konchar, and a valuable first-round pick. These assets provide them with the tools to build for the future. It's a strategic move that addresses the immediate and long-term goals of both franchises, making it a compelling proposition for both sides. Next up, though, I like this one. The Los Angeles Clippers would acquire Jeremy Grant and Delano Banton from the Portland Trail Blazers. In return, the Trail Blazers would receive P.J. Tucker, Derrick Jones Jr., Bones Highland, and Kevin Porter Jr. This trade could significantly impact both teams, so let's break it down. Jeremy Grant, standing at 6 feet 8 inches, is a versatile forward known for his scoring ability and defensive prowess. Last season, he averaged 21 points, 3.5 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game, showcasing his all-around skills. Adding Grant to the Clippers roster would provide a significant boost on both ends of the floor. The Clippers, who finished the 2024 season with a 51-31 record, have been seeking to enhance their roster to make a deeper playoff run. Grant's ability to play multiple positions and contribute as a scorer and defender fits well with the Clippers' needs. His presence would alleviate some of the scoring burden from James Harden, allowing for a more balanced offensive attack. Delano Banton, a young guard with potential, would add depth to the Clippers' backcourt. Standing at 6 feet 7 inches, Banton's size and versatility make him an intriguing prospect for the Clippers' development system. On the other side, the Trail Blazers would receive a mix of veteran presence and young talent. P.J. Tucker, known for his defensive tenacity and corner three-point shooting, would bring toughness and experience to Portland's lineup. Derrick Jones Jr., with his athleticism and defensive capabilities, would add versatility to the Blazers' wing positions. Bones Highland, a promising young guard, has shown flashes of scoring ability and playmaking. His development could be accelerated with increased opportunities in Portland's system. Kevin Porter Jr., despite some off-court challenges, possesses significant talent as a scorer and facilitator. A change of scenery might provide him with the environment needed to reach his potential. This trade would signal the Trailblazers' intent to retool their roster around Damian Lillard, aiming to build a more balanced and defensively oriented team. The addition of Tucker and Jones Jr. would immediately improve their defensive capabilities, while Highland and Porter Jr. offer potential for future growth. For the Clippers, acquiring Grant would address their need for a reliable third scoring option and defensive versatility. His ability to stretch the floor with his shooting and attack the basket would complement the playmaking of Leonard and Harden. Banton's inclusion provides additional depth and a developmental piece for the future. Financially, this trade would require careful consideration. Grant is under contract with a significant salary, and the Clippers would need to manage their cap space to accommodate his contract. However, the potential benefits on the court could outweigh the financial implications, especially for a team in win-now mode. This trade offers both teams opportunities to address their respective needs. The Clippers would gain a versatile forward in Jeremy Grant, enhancing their chances for a deep playoff run. The Trailblazers would receive a combination of veteran presence and young talent, providing flexibility for both immediate competitiveness and future development. As with any trade, the success of this deal would ultimately depend on how well the new players integrate into their respective team systems and cultures. But on paper, this trade presents a compelling scenario for both the Clippers and the Trailblazers as they look to achieve their organizational goals. Then we got this one. The trade would send Kyle Kuzma to the Sacramento Kings in exchange for Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, and a first-round pick. This deal could significantly impact both teams as they pursue different priorities, with the Kings looking to shore up their roster for a playoff push and the Wizards focusing on financial flexibility and future assets. Starting with the Kings, adding Kuzma would address one of their biggest issues: spacing. Their current lineup has struggled to consistently stretch the floor, and Kuzma's ability to knock down shots and operate as a versatile power forward would fit perfectly alongside their core. Kuzma, averaging over 20 points and 7 rebounds this season, has become an offensive force who can contribute in multiple ways. He can hit threes, attack off the dribble, and provide a reliable scoring option when their stars are being keyed in on. The new-look Kings lineup could feature Fox, DeRozan, Murray, Kyle Kuzma, and Sabonis. That's a dangerous mix of playmaking, scoring, and versatility. Kuzma's ability to stretch the floor would open up driving lanes for Fox and DeRozan, while also creating more space for Sabonis to operate in the paint. He's also solid defensively, capable of guarding multiple positions, which is another boost for a team that's working to solidify its playoff positioning in the Western Conference. The Kings would be taking a risk by giving up a first-round pick, but it's a move that signals they're serious about winning now. Kuzma is under contract, which means he's not just a rental, he's someone they can integrate into their long-term plans. His skill set complements their roster, and his experience adds another layer of confidence to a team hungry to make a deep playoff run. For the Wizards, this trade represents a smart financial and strategic move. Kyle Kuzma has been a key player for Washington, but with their current struggles and lack of competitiveness, moving him now allows them to gain valuable assets while avoiding the risk of losing him for nothing in the future. By acquiring Kevin Huerter, Trey Lyles, and a first-round pick, the Wizards set themselves up for a more flexible future. Kevin Huerter is an intriguing piece for Washington. The 6'7" guard forward is known for his shooting and versatility, and he brings a different dynamic to the Wizards' rotation. Huerter is capable of creating his own shot, spacing the floor, and contributing as a secondary playmaker. His contract is team-friendly, making him a valuable asset as the Wizards evaluate their long-term roster plans. Trey Lyles adds depth and physicality to Washington's front court. He's not a flashy player, but he's effective in his role, capable of providing scoring, rebounding, and floor spacing off the bench. Lyle's ability to play both forward positions gives the Wizards more lineup flexibility, which is crucial for a team that's likely to experiment with different combinations as they rebuild. The first-round pick is the centerpiece of this trade for Washington. For a team in need of young talent and future assets, this pick gives them another opportunity to add a promising prospect to their roster. Whether they use it to draft a player or as a piece in a future trade, it's a valuable addition that aligns with their need to plan for the future. Financially, the trade makes sense for the Wizards. Kuzma's contract, while reasonable for his production, represents a significant financial commitment. By moving him, they gain flexibility to pursue other players in free agency or manage their cap space more effectively. This is especially important for a team that's looking to rebuild and retool rather than compete immediately. This trade reflects the different paths these teams are on. The Kings would get a versatile scorer and shooter in Kuzma, addressing their spacing issues and bolstering their lineup for a playoff run. Meanwhile, the Wizards would gain financial freedom, young talent, and a valuable first-round pick, positioning themselves for a brighter future. It's a calculated move for both teams, with each addressing their most pressing needs while setting the stage for what's next. And then we got the last trade. The Milwaukee Bucks would trade Chris Middleton, Pat, a first-round pick, and a second-round pick to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith. This move could significantly impact both teams in intriguing ways. Starting with the Bucks, acquiring Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith would inject fresh energy into their lineup. Johnson, known for his sharpshooting, is having an impressive season, averaging over 18 points per game on nearly 50% shooting from the field and over 43% from beyond the arc. His ability to stretch the floor would complement Giannis's inside game, creating more spacing and offensive opportunities. Finney-Smith brings defensive versatility and toughness, qualities that are invaluable in high-stakes games. His perimeter defense and ability to guard multiple positions would bolster the Bucks' defensive schemes, making them more formidable against elite wing players. Additionally, both Johnson and Finney-Smith are on team-friendly contracts, providing the Bucks with some financial flexibility moving forward. Considering the Bucks' current financial commitments, this trade could help them manage the luxury tax more effectively while maintaining a competitive roster. On the flip side, the Brooklyn Nets would receive Chris Middleton, a proven scorer and two-time All-Star. Middleton's experience and scoring ability could provide the Nets with a reliable offensive option, especially in clutch situations. However, it's worth noting that Middleton has been dealing with injuries in recent seasons, which could be a concern for the Nets. Along with Middleton, the Nets would acquire Pat, a solid role player known for his athleticism and three-point shooting. The inclusion of a first-round and a second-round pick adds future assets to the Nets' portfolio, which could be valuable for either developing young talent or facilitating future trades. This trade presents both opportunities and challenges for the Bucks and the Nets. The Bucks would gain shooting and defensive versatility, potentially enhancing their championship aspirations. The Nets would acquire a proven scorer in Middleton, along with future draft assets, but would need to consider his injury history and contract size. As with any trade, the success of this deal would depend on how well the new pieces integrate into their respective teams and systems. Overall, though, all these trades would be fun. I don't know if they'll happen, but they would be cool to see. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day during this season. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.